So if you can repeat after me. Yo mam eva asammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Yo mam eva sammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Yo mam evam sammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. If anyone else would like to recite the verse. Yo mam evam sammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Anyone else? Yo mam evam sammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Yo mam evam sammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Yo mam evam sammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarvam bhavena bharata. So word to word meaning by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ya, anyone who, mam, me, evam, thus, asammudaha, without a doubt, janati, knows, purusha uttamam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saha, he, sarvavit, the knower of everything, bhajati, renders devotional service, mam, unto me, sarva bhavena, in all respects, bharata, O son of Bharata. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting, is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. Purport. There are many philosophical speculations about the constitutional position of the living entities and the Supreme Absolute Truth. Now in this verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead clearly explains that anyone who knows Lord Krishna to be the Supreme Person is actually the knower of everything. The imperfect knower goes on simply speculating about the absolute truth, but the perfect knower, without wasting his valuable time, engages directly in Krishna consciousness, the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Throughout the whole Bhagavad Gita, this fact is being stressed at every step. And still there are so many stubborn commentators on Bhagavad Gita who consider the supreme absolute truth and the living entities to be one and the same. Vedic knowledge is called Shruti, learning by oral reception. One should actually receive the Vedic message from authorities like Krishna and his representatives. Here, Krishna distinguishes everything very nicely, and one should hear from this source. Simply to hear like the hogs is not sufficient. One must be able to understand from the authorities. It is not that one should simply speculate academically. One should submissively hear from Bhagavad Gita that these living entities are always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who is able to understand this, according to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, knows the purpose of the Vedas. No one else knows the purpose of the Vedas. The word bhajati is very significant. In many places, the word bhajati is expressed in relationship with the service of the Supreme Lord. If a person is engaged in full Krishna consciousness in the devotional service of the Lord, it is to be understood that he has understood all the Vedic knowledge. In the Vaishnava Parampara, it is said that if one is engaged in the devotional service of Krishna, then there is no need for any other spiritual process for understanding the Supreme Absolute Truth. He has already come to the point because he is engaged in devotional service of the Lord. He has ended all preliminary processes of understanding. But if anyone, after speculating for hundreds of thousands of lives, does not come to the point that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that one has to surrender there, all his speculation for so many years and lives is a useless waste of time. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Rahunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sa Advaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वांचा कल्प तरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लांघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा 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 हरे हरे. So this is an interesting verse and it's quite important because we have a number of festivals that are coming up, especially from next week. So actually, having said that, before we even start the class, I'll just make an announcement that next Wednesday, we will not have a session here. So the session next week will be on Tuesday because Tuesday is the appearance of Lord Balaram. So we'll be celebrating Balaram appearance day on Tuesday. And the following Wednesday, we will be celebrating Srila Prabhupada's appearance day on Wednesday as well. So the usual Wednesday program will not happen for the next 2 weeks anyways. So as you know, there's many festivals that are coming up. First one is Balaram Purnima, which is next Tuesday. And then the following Tuesday is Sri Krishna Janmashtami. So Janmashtami is coming up as well. And then essentially a few days after that is Radhashtami. So around one fortnight later. So all three very important personalities in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, all of them are appearing at the same time. So it's important that we get our mood correct before we enter into these festivals and we approach them with the right mood, which is why I decided to speak on this verse. The one important thing which was mentioned in the purport is that Srila Prabhupada points out that simply to hear like hogs is not sufficient. One must be able to understand from authorities. So I know everyone, we all try to come and we try to listen to Krishna Katha, but actually the point is not just to listen to Krishna Katha, but actually the point is to learn and understand. Because if we don't understand, then how are we going to pass it on to future generations? So actually we should be able to understand it and digest it. That is what the purpose of human life is. Athato Brahma Jignasa. Which means that now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth and to understand it. One does not just inquire just for the sake of inquiring. but one inquires to understand the topic. So actually now we should try to understand who is Krishna and whose appearance day are we celebrating. So now it is explained here that Krishna says that Yo mam evam asam mudho janati purushottamam, which means that whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. The main word here is asammudho. So many of us may know that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but we may not be fully convinced of that point. We may think that, okay, well, fine, Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but he is an incarnation of Vishnu. Or we may think that, no, actually, there are other personalities which are more powerful than Krishna in terms of rewarding benedictions and things like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, or Devi, etc. But actually here we have to understand that Janati Purushottamam. We have to understand that Krishna is the supreme person. Now you might think that Purushottama just means that Krishna is the supreme amongst all Purushas. But the other demigods are meant to be Ishwaras. Like for example, we know that Lord Shiva, for example, is known as Mahesh, Maha Ishwara. So we may think that, well, Shiva comes in the Ishwara category and Krishna or Vishnu comes in the Purusha category. But actually, if you look at it philosophically, actually Purusha covers all the living entities. So it includes the Ishwara Tattva also. This Purush Uttama is actually a very, very technical word, and it's a very philosophical word which has a very specific meaning. So to distinguish that the living entity, so if you look at Tattva, for example, if you look at what this whole material nature is made of, it's made of two things. It's made of living beings and it's made of non-living beings. You can't have partially living beings or partially dead beings, etc. Like those kinds of things don't exist. So you have the living spirit and then you have matter. You have these two kinds of things. So to point out the fact that the living soul or the living force is greater than the material energy, we use the word Ut. So Ut Purusha means that the Purusha Tattva or the Jiva Tattva or the soul is higher than the material energy. So that is known as Ut Purusha. Then you may say, okay, well, there are many different types of Purushas. There are ordinary living entities like us, and then there are many Devi Devtas also. Like there are Shiva, Ganesh, Parvati, etc. There are many other types of Jiva Tattvas as well. So to point out that Krishna or Supreme Personality of Godhead is superior to all of these Tattvas, all of the Jiva Tattvas and all of the Ishwar Tattvas, it is said he is Uttara Purusha. Uttara Purusha means that he is above all the other forms of Purushas also. But now here there may be another question that, there is even within Krishna Tattva, even within Vishnu Tattva, okay, so we may agree that Vishnu is superior to all of the other Jiva Tattvas, but even within Vishnu Tattva, there are many different Tattvas. Like there is Matsya Avatar, there is Krishna, there is Balaram, there is Kurma, there is Lord Ram himself. So among these, who is the most superior? So that is where you use the word Uttama Purusha to indicate that Krishna is even superior to all of the other Vishnu Tattvas also. So first you have Purusha, you have Ut Purusha, Uttara Purusha, and then you have Uttama Purusha to point out that Krishna is superior to everyone. So actually this word Purushottama is not just a very simple word. I'm saying this because personally when I came to Krishna consciousness, I thought that Purushottama is not a very high designation to give to Krishna because he is most superior amongst all humans because we think that Purusha means human being. But actually Purusha means all living beings. So if you look at it like that, then it makes more sense why Krishna is known as Purushottama. So Purushottama means he is the supreme most amongst all of the Vishnu Tattvas also. That is why in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Ete chamsa kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, which means that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the others, Ete cha amsa kalapumsa, which means that all of the others are either his parts or plenary portions. So basically all the other avatars that come or all the other forms of the Lord are his portions. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now one may ask, okay, well, if Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Why is there, okay, like I've explained it to you, it might have made sense. But here Krishna is saying that you have to know him without a doubt. Asammudho. Asammudho is the main word here, that we must be utterly convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now that may be difficult for us because, yeah, sure, sometimes we may think that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but then when difficulties come and we see that Krishna is not appearing to our rescue or he is not coming to protect us, we may really wonder if Krishna is the Supreme Most Personality. We may have doubts about this. Whereas the wise people, they don't have any doubts about this at all. So like for example, there was one devotee who was, in fact, like it's in my knowledge anyways, that's why I'm sharing this with you. But like there was a devotee in Delhi, and this devotee was practicing Krishna consciousness for the last like 20, 25 years or so. And he was initiated and his wife was initiated as well. And then they had a son of 20 years who died in a motor car accident. And then after the son died, it's said that they were in quite a lot of distress. And after some days, actually, the wife, she became completely against Krishna. She said that if Krishna really exists, we have been serving him for the last 20 years. And because we have been serving him, what did he do? He took away our son. So how can Krishna be God if Krishna cannot even protect our son? So then she started to speak ill against Krishna. And then eventually the husband became convinced as well. So the husband also decided that, yeah, Krishna does not really exist, and whoever we have been worshipping is not really the Supreme Lord. And they actually, like, when the devotees came to visit them, they actually broke their kanti and then they threw it away because they said that, they don't want to worship Krishna at all. So now this is the point here, that these doubts may arise in our mind also. And that is why it is said that we must constantly keep hearing and constantly we must be convinced of this philosophy that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because, yeah, sure, like while we are sitting in the class, we may accept that, or while you're reading Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, you may accept that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. But it must be without a doubt. We must be utterly convinced in any circumstance that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now this is quite interesting because there are many, many great personalities. Like, the devotees who gave up Krishna consciousness, they were just human beings anyways. But there are Devi Devtas also who are confused about the nature of Krishna. That is why in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Tene Brahma Hridayadi Kavaye Muhyanti Yat Surayaha. Muhyanti Yat Surayaha. That's the word. That Krishna is one who can, so this is the definition of Krishna. One of the definitions is that he is the one who can bewilder even all of the demigods. All of the demigods can be bewildered. Now, do we have examples of this? Like, I can just make a bold statement, but there are actually quite a lot of examples of how demigods were bewildered also. And I'm sure all of you can understand that. Like, if you think about it, the first one we'll talk about is Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma was bewildered about the position of Krishna. We all know that there was a pastime. But what we don't know is that Brahma already knows that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. How? Because when Brahma was created, at that time it was complete darkness. He did not know what was happening. So he was looking up, he was looking down, he couldn't see where he came from. So when he was born, it was complete darkness. He could see that he's sitting on a lotus. So he decided to climb down to the lotus to see where this end of this lotus is, so that I can find out where I'm coming from. So it said that while he was climbing down, he passed 500 celestial years. So then he realized that this is just a waste of time. I can't figure out where I'm coming from. So he climbed all the way back up. And when he climbed all the way back up, he sat down in meditation. And as he sat in meditation, he heard a sound which said, you need to combine the 16th letter of the alphabet and the 21st letter of the alphabet. What is the 16th letter of the alphabet? It is Ta. And the 21st letter is Pa. So it said you need to combine these two alphabets. So if you combine them, you get Ta, Pa. So then he understood that he has to perform austerities. He has to perform tapasya. So as he was performing tapasya, it is explained that Lord Vishnu appeared within the heart of Lord Brahma. And when Lord Vishnu appeared in the heart of Lord Brahma, he immediately became excited and his meditation broke. And when his meditation broke, he saw that Lord Krishna is standing in front of him. And it is explained, there's a very vivid description that, Lord Brahma offers his prayers to Lord Krishna, and Krishna actually shakes the hand of Brahma and he says that, you are going to go and do a task which is very important, which is the creation of this material universe. Then Brahmaji said that, I don't know how to create, I don't have any ingredients. So then Krishna says, don't worry, I will give you the knowledge of the Vedas. And then he gave the Chatushloki Bhagavatam there at that time. And then he also gave him the ingredients. He said, okay, fine, if you want to create, here are all the ingredients. And he gave him the process also, like how you should create, etc. So then Lord Brahma engaged in creation. So Lord Brahma knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is explained that in every day of Lord Brahma, Krishna appears once. So, like Lord Brahma has a day, and in one day, there are 71 Chaturyugas. 71 Chaturyugas means you have the Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. That's one Chaturyuga. You do that 71 times. Actually, 71 times is one Manvantara. And in one, you have 14 Manvantaras like that. So you have 71 times 14 Chaturyugas. So he has seen the pastimes of Krishna that many times. Because in every day of Lord Brahma, Krishna appears. But still, Lord Brahma got confused about the position of Krishna. Why? Because Lord Brahma became proud of his position. That's what is explained. That when someone becomes proud, or when someone thinks that, I am the doer, or he thinks that I am the one who is creating, and he wants to forget Krishna, immediately Maya attacks. So then we see that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a very interesting section where Lord Brahma, he sees that Krishna is sitting with his cowherd boyfriends, and he is partaking little prasadam. Does anyone know what that prasadam is that he is taking? Curd rice and one more thing. Some will say, oh, Krishna was South Indian, but no, I mean, that's what is described. Huh? Not jaggery, actually it was pickled fruits. So, so some people say that it was mango pickle or something. So, Krishna was having curd rice with mango pickle. That is what is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. He was eating that. And while he was eating that, he was eating it with his left hand. And he was eating the remnants of his friends. Like his friends were eating first and then they were giving it to Krishna. So then Lord Brahma got confused. He said that how is it possible that the Supreme Lord, who is Dharma Sansthapanartha, he is the one who comes and establishes the principles of religion. How is it possible that he doesn't even know the basics of religion, which is that you should not eat leftovers from someone else. So he was very confused. And you should not eat with your left hand. You should always eat with your right hand. These are the basics of religion. So he became extremely confused. And then we know there was a huge Leela where he decided to take away all the friends of Krishna. So he took away all of the friends and hid them in a cave. And it is explained that he just went away for a while, and then when he came back, 1 year had passed. And when he came back, he saw that Krishna's friends are already with him. And so he was a bit confused. He said that how is it possible? Because I took all of Krishna's friends away. So how is it possible that all of the friends came back? So then it occurred to him that actually I made a huge mistake. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is the one who expanded himself into many other friends. So it is explained, Eko Bahushyam, which means that Krishna is one who expanded into many. So that's what it means. So then Lord Brahma understood that he has made a grave mistake by taking away all of the friends of Krishna. And then he fell at the feet of Krishna and he said that, your Maya is very strong. No one can surpass the power of your Maya. So that is why in our case also, we may also sometimes be bewildered about who Krishna is. Because to our eyes, Krishna may appear just as an ordinary boy. His dealings with his friends may appear as just ordinary dealings. But they're not ordinary dealings. In fact, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. That is why firstly we have to understand, whenever we are celebrating Janmashtami, we are actually celebrating the appearance day of the Lord who is never born. So you may think, how is it possible for the Lord who is never born to appear in this world? Like, you may say that, people give many analogies. Like, it's like an aeroplane that comes and lands. Like aeroplane flies and then it lands and then it flies away. So that is Krishna's appearance and disappearance. Many people give these analogies. But actually you can think about the Jivatma, like the individual soul. We are also like that. Like we also change bodies and then when we get old, we drop one body and then we go to another destination. So even our birth and death may look like that. And we may think that Krishna is also like that. But actually Krishna's appearance and disappearance is nothing like that. Because Krishna chooses when he wants to appear. And Krishna can choose when he wants to wind up his pastimes. So whenever Krishna appears with a particular purpose in mind. He appears for some particular reason, and he doesn't appear just for no reason, or he doesn't appear because he is forced to take birth. That is the other important thing to understand. Many people think that Krishna is forced to take birth just like us, but Krishna is not forced to take birth. He takes birth, or he appears of his own accord. Now, why he appears, we'll discuss a bit more on Saturday, because on Saturday also we will be continuing this topic. But essentially now now it suffices to say that the appearance and activities of Krishna are transcendental. They are beyond our understanding, and we have to actually try to understand why Krishna is appearing in this material world. So now you may say that, okay, well, Lord Brahma we can understand, okay, well, he made a mistake once. But there are many other devtas who made mistakes repeatedly. Like we see Indra, for example. Indra made offenses against the Lord in every avatar. You can think about it like that. Like when Krishna appears, Indra makes the first offense when we see the Govardhan Leela, for example. Like I'm sure all of you here know about the Govardhan Leela, so I won't recite the Govardhan Leela in much detail. But essentially we see that after the Govardhan Leela, Indra comes and offers his respects, and he says that, you are the Supreme Lord, and because I became proud, you had to teach me a lesson, so I totally understand that, and now I accept that you are the Supreme Lord. Having said this, Indra left. But we see that again within Krishna Leela, he makes like a similar mistake. Which pastime is that one? Does anyone know? He makes a similar mistake where he forgets that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Yes, that's the pastime. So when Satyabhama wanted, so again there's a very beautiful pastime that once upon a time Rukmini was in her garden, and then Narad Muni brings her a very nice parijat flower, and Rukmini takes that flower and she offers it to Krishna. So when she offers it at that time, Satyabhama is there also. So then Satyabhama sees Rukmini offering that flower to him, and then she says that she also wants that whole tree. She says that one flower is not sufficient. I want that whole tree. So she asks Krishna to go and bring that tree. So then Krishna says, okay, that's fine. So they both get on a chariot, and then Krishna takes Satyabhama to the heavenly planets. And while they're in the heavenly planets, they spot that tree. So Krishna just takes that tree and then puts it at the back of his chariot, and he starts driving. Because ultimately everything belongs to Krishna. So he just assumed that it belongs to me. So he just took it. And then Indra got upset again. It said that Indra tried to stop Krishna and said that no, this tree is meant to be in heavenly planets. You can't take this tree out of here. So then Krishna said, well, what are you going to do? So he said, well, I will fight you. Then they said, so then Krishna said, yeah, sure, bring it on, bro. That's fine. So then they essentially engage in a huge war, it is explained. Like all the Devi Devtas come, and Krishna single-handedly defeats all of the Devi Devtas. And after he defeats all of them, then Indra again realizes. He says that, yeah, actually you are the Supreme Lord, and I should not have offended you. And then he says, this tree is yours, you can take this tree, but along with this tree, take all these gifts also. So then he gave a lot of other gifts to Krishna. So then Krishna brought the Parijat tree down as well. So now one may question that Indra already knew that Krishna is the Supreme Lord after Govardhan Leela. So if Indra already knew that, then why is it that he forgot during the Govardhan Leela, and then again he forgot later on as well, like he forgot during the Parijat tree pastime. But that is the point of Krishna Leela. It is to point out that Krishna is supreme, and his activities can be extremely confusing. They can be so confusing that we may not understand what is happening half the time. That is why it requires a lot of spiritual intelligence to understand his pastimes. And that is why we should pay attention to try to understand his pastimes also. And why they are difficult to understand, again, we'll discuss on Saturday. But this is, you can say, today's class is like a prelude to Saturday. So then you may get more hyped up to understand how Krishna executes his pastimes in this material world. But anyways, it goes to show that devas can be not confused once or twice, but they can be confused many times. In fact, if you take the example of Lord Shiva, for example, Lord Shiva was confused many times with the incarnation of, with multiple incarnations of the Lord. We know that Lord Shiva was confused about the position of Lord Vishnu. We see that in the Ramayana, he was ready to fight with Lord Vishnu to establish who is superior. And then just with the Humkar, Lord Vishnu made Shiva drop his bow, and then Shiva felt very embarrassed. And then that bow was given to Parshuram, and Parshuram gave it to Janak. And that was the bow that Lord Ram broke as well before marrying Sita. So we see that Lord Shiva underestimated the power of Lord Vishnu over there. We see that there are many other instances also in many different avatars of the Lord where Lord Shiva misunderstood the position of Krishna. We see that in Krishna avatar also, there is a very famous pastime of which one? Which asura? Banasura. Banasura was a demon who was coming in the line of Prahlad Maharaj or Bali Maharaj, and he was a great devotee of Shiva. And then we see that this demon, he had a daughter named Usha, and Krishna's I think grandson or great grandson, Aniruddha, great grandson, sorry. Aniruddha, he wanted to marry Usha. So then Banasura got very angry and he said that, we are going to go to war because I can't let my daughter marry in Krishna's kula. So then he prays to Lord Shiva and then he receives the Shivastra. And when he fires it, so essentially there's a huge war that happens, and during that war, Krishna defeats Banasura, and Krishna also defeats Shiva's weapon, which is, I don't know what the name was. Was it Pashupat? It was the one which Shivajara, yeah, that's right. The one which created a heat, such an intense heat that it was about to burn the whole universe. But then it is explained that Krishna fired the Narayanastra. Narayanastra was the one which cooled it down completely. So then, in so much so that it was like that cooling was extremely painful at the same time. So then that weapon sought refuge at the feet of Lord Krishna. And it is explained that Krishna then chopped off Banasura's arms. Actually, Krishna was going to kill him with his Sudarshan Chakra, but then Lord Shiva pleaded that, he's my devotee, so please forgive him. So then Krishna just chopped off his arms and then let him be. Like, okay, that's fine. He can be a personal associate of Lord Shiva. So we see that Lord Shiva has also many times underestimated the position of Krishna. We see that even in the Mohini avatar as well. Like Lord Shiva was not there when the ocean was being churned. So then at that time, Shiva hears the stories about how the Mohini avatar was able to captivate all of the asuras. So Shiva also has a desire to see this feminine form of the Lord in Mohini Murti. So he requests Lord Vishnu or Krishna to show this form of Mohini. And Krishna just smiles at that time. Because what happens after that is basically like we see that Lord Shiva was running after Mohini Murti. So while his wife Parvati was still present. So that is the bewildering power of Krishna, that he can attract even the minds of the greatest tapasvis, including Lord Shiva. So his bewildering power is extremely high. So if we understand that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and his Maya is extremely strong as well, then we will understand that, Krishna is not an ordinary personality. So if he is appearing in this material world, he is appearing for some reason. So if we understand that, then we can actually, if we have that mentality that, now, okay, we want to understand why Krishna appears in this world, then we can truly get into the reasons and the intricacies of why Krishna appears in this material world. So here in the verse again it says, Yo mam evam asammudo janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharatam. Which means that one who completely understands that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and there is no one above him or there is no one even equal to him, such a person is able to engage in devotional service. So such a person is able to perform bhakti. Nowadays in India especially, there is misconception that you can perform Shiv Bhakti, you can perform Krishna Bhakti, you can perform Sai Bhakti, you can perform whatever Bhakti. But actually this Bhakti word is only used for Krishna. Yeah, you can use Shiv Upasana, you can worship Shiva, but Bhakti is a very specific word which is used only in relation to Purushottama, or it is used in relation to Krishna. So essentially what we're doing with other demigods is we are worshipping them and we are offering respects to them. So as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we also offer our respects to all of the demigods, but we don't do bhakti towards them. So we may ask them for a particular result we may ask them for a particular boon in a particular circumstance. It may be necessary for the welfare of Vaishnavas, for example. but we don't perform bhakti towards him. Bhakti is a word, or bhakti is a process which is only for Krishna. So again, it's a bit technical, and that whole bhakti thing is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam as well. So we won't discuss too much about that, because bhakti is the inherent nature of the soul, and that is only directed towards its source, which is the Jivatma comes from Krishna. So bhakti can only be directed towards its source. It can't be directed towards anyone else. So having said that, I will finish there because it's 8 o'clock. But if anyone has any questions, any comments, or anything you'd like to share, we can discuss that now before we finish. No? Okay, so I guess we'll finish there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. So before we go for the Aarti again, I'll just remind everyone that we don't have a session, we don't have a class here next Wednesday. We'll be celebrating Balaram Purnima on Tuesday instead. That's right. So we will see you all on Saturday and then on Tuesday. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.